Hey, welcome back to the What Do You Mean podcast. I'm Ty.
And I'm Monica. Today, because it's Halloween week, we are doing a spooky episode that I am so excited about.
Yeah, you're really stoked about this. I'm stoked too.
I love this stuff. Well, I don't, love is a weird word.
It is a weird, because you don't love this stuff, but you find it extremely fascinating.
I do. And I think after looking into it, you also do.
I do too. I mean, my favorite movies are this same kind of thing. I think I don't tend to look into the nonfiction versions of this.
Yeah.
Which is what we're going to do.
Yeah. We both picked a few serial killers that we are fascinated by.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about them. And we don't know anything about the other person's picks. So we're all going to be shocked.
It'll be fun. We'll do a little bit of a story time and then we'll kind of go into the chaos.
We're definitely not experts. And I'm sure some people listening know way more about serial killers and this type of thing than we do. I don't listen to any serial killer podcasts.
I don't listen
honestly,
to any true crime.
We'll get into this and the people listening will be like, and?
Yeah.
But this won't be anything crazy monumental if you already know about serial killers. But
yeah, if that's your thing and you're a psychologist, a criminal psychologist or something,
tune back in next week. But I think what really inspired this, besides obviously the fact that it's Halloween week and we wanted something to be spooky, we've been watching
Dahmer, the monster within, or
yikes,
whatever.
We've been watching that Dahmer series on Netflix that's so popular right now.
The TV show, not the documentary show.
Yes. Yeah.
The one with Evan Peters.
Yeah. If you guys have not watched it yet,
you really should.
Holy frick.
Yeah.
It is insane.
It's insane. It's a show that you hate while also loving it.
It's
just uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable. It's very disturbing. The first couple episodes were harder for me to watch than it is now, just because I know what to expect now that we're into it. But it was shocking at first. I mean, it's still shocking. But the first couple episodes, I was like, I don't know if I can keep watching this.
Well, and it's a weird show too, and I tell a lot of people this, it's a weird show because they don't ever want you to connect with the main character or feel for him, because he's a psychopath serial killer. So they're definitely painting him as the bad guy, but he's also the main character of the show. So you have to care a little bit.
It's tough.
It's just weird.
I will say, there's not a moment in the show where I'm I'm rooting for this guy's happiness. But there are some moments where I'm this sucks. It sucks to watch because this guy is such a bad guy. And there are moments where you almost feel a little bad for him because he's so weird and just
you do a little bit
odd.
You wish that he wasn't the way that he was,
which I think we would wish about most serial killers.
Agreed.
Yeah, the show is truly shocking. We're actually not done with it yet, and
we have one episode left.
Ty hadn't heard about Dahmer before we started watching the series. I had, because I went on a serial killer kick in high school, or not in high school, in college. But Ty doesn't know how the Dahmer story ends, and so we can't talk about that, but we need to finish watching. We have one episode to go.
Honestly, we'll probably watch it after this.
We'll watch it tonight.
So, with all that said...
should we talk about a couple other spooky shows to watch right now? Or if you're trying to get in the spirit...
I forgot to prep a few, but...
we can just kind of go off the top of our head. There's a few good shows on Netflix.
Yeah, there's a few on Netflix. There's a lot of good ones. Some that we've watched, I would say, in the last year are
obviously Haunting of Hill House.
Haunting of Hill House. And Bly Manor.
I think most people have watched that at this point, but if you haven't, those are really bangers. Should.
And they just came out with a new show by the same director, and they've been advertising it a lot, called The Midnight Club. So we need to watch that soon too. Same with Midnight Mass, which came out last year, also by him. Also by him, Dr. Sleep, a movie, sequel to The Shining. It's terrific and spooky.
Okay.
That's just
I guess you have a lot more.
I have so many spooky things.
Me, I'm not the biggest spooky gal, but we have watched a lot of shows that, even if they're not necessarily horror or categorized as that, I would say they're spooky enough to watch, The Sinner.
The Sinner, which also has
a great series.
4th season that we need to watch.
Yeah, 4th season of that just came out, so we're gonna watch that. What's that show that we just talked about of the family that moved into the house? Do you remember what that was called?
The one that we haven't seen yet?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think it's called The Watcher.
Okay.
Maybe. Yes, it is called The Watcher. And it is on Netflix and it is brand new. I don't know if it's good, so I'm not going to recommend it to people, but it
I
looks
will say,
spooky.
we watched the trailer for it, just like what automatically played on the Netflix like home screen, and I audibly gasped just at the trailer.
That's true. You did.
I feel like that show would be pretty good. We'll probably watch that.
Yeah, we're going to start that
Soon
like
too.
tomorrow probably.
Do you have any like top Halloween spooky movies that people need to watch?
Like classic spooky, like
yeah, it could be
properly
classic.
spooky or like...
Yeah, give maybe like a couple classic and then maybe one or two that are a little less
Okay.
known. I don't have good recs for this because I'm not the biggest movie person, but Ty is, so.
That's fair. My spooky Rex, I would say I would give the original Halloween a watch because I love it.
That one got me.
That one got
I watched
you.
it for the first time last year.
I would give The Thing. That's a terrific spooky movie. I would give Alien a good watch.
Oh, I would not.
Yeah, you hate Alien.
I hate Alien.
But Alien is one of my very favorite movies. Like probably top 5. Those are like my classics because those are all 80s and 70s. And then my more modern Rex.
Indie, a little more underground.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, kind of. Really spooky, really terrifying. Like maybe the most terrifying movie I've ever seen is called The Descent. That
I remember you telling me about that
goes
movie.
off. I love that movie
Don't watch
so
it if you're
much.
claustrophobic, though, right?
Yeah, claustrophobic, big claustrophobic vibes.
Trigger warning.
I love that one. That's like mid 2000s. Trick or Treat is terrific. It's so fun. It's like more classic horror vibes, but it's from like 2009 or so. And what else do I really like? I mean, Hocus Pocus
We
was
did
great.
watch
We
Hocus
watched
Pocus for the first time. Like both of us had never seen Hocus Pocus. And I will say, like, I can't believe that movie was allowed on Disney Channel at the time that it was, because like
It was a little edgy.
there were things in there that I was like, this lands for me now, but if I had seen it as
Yeah.
a kid, I feel like,
Had no idea.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a weird
there's some
movie.
dark stuff in
There
there.
was some dark
I
stuff.
thought it was funny.
There was a lot of sex jokes.
Yeah, there was like,
There were some weird things in there that I was like, huh?
yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
But we need to watch the second one now because that's why we watched it. We wanted to be up to speed so that we could watch the next
Yep.
one. But that would be a fun, like, lighthearted one
Yep.
for.
I also, I
Halloween
mean,
time.
I'll always recommend Nightmare Before Christmas because I think it's so fun. It's not
Yeah.
really new. It's from 25 years ago, but still
Great,
great. Those are the spooky Recs.
Let us know if you watch any.
Yeah. If you like those Recs, let us know. If you have other Recs of things for us to watch,
Let us
Also
know. We
let
can
us know.
make like a watch list or something on our stories. Anywho, should we dive in
Yeah,
to
let's do it.
our stories? I'm so excited. Okay.
Yeah, same. I want you to go first. I have 2 good ones. I have one wild one.
I'm going to kind of read you basically just from articles with this one because I
Okay.
don't know a ton about it,
Okay.
but it was shocking
Cool.
to read. So, okay. My first serial killer, his name is Dennis Rader.
Okay.
He was known as the BTK killer, which stands
What
for
is this?
bind, torture, kill, because that's what he would do to all of his victims.
Wait, didn't we watch a short about this guy?
We may have.
I think we
'Cause
did on
Shoot, do you know about him?
Catching Killers.
Yeah, that's why it was familiar to me.
I don't
wanted to do
remember-
more like, I wanted to look into it some more because I was
Okay.
like, I know I've heard of this guy.
Yes, I think we did watch one, but I don't. The details are very fuzzy for me. So
Right. I have like a super big fascination with the serial killers that clearly want the attention.
Yeah.
Because like watching Dahmer, it didn't seem like he wanted attention. He was trying to keep everything very
Yeah.
underground, trying to be very low key.
and he did it for like 20 years or something. And
there's
no
some
one knew.
serial killers that just love the attention of it. This guy would write into the press about himself. Just like
Yeah, what?
super weird, really wanted attention. I'll read you like a quote that he said when I get more into this. But okay, he was born in March of 1945 in Pittsburgh, Kansas.
Okay.
He was an American serial killer who murdered 10 people over a span of 3 decades before he got arrested in 2005. So what really like stood out to me with this one was the fact that this man was like, by all accounts, a normal guy, like, which I guess is pretty typical for serial killers, but like he wasn't the type that people thought was weird just looking at him. He was like very involved in church, and like he was a Boy Scout, and like all this stuff that just like seems so normal and so like,
that's weird.
Not like you would not suspect it. He had a wife and kids. Like,
did they know?
I don't think so. Not until he got caught. That's
for
the thing.
30 years?
I guess so. Yeah. Okay.
Oh my gosh. So, can you imagine being married to someone that was off gallivanting around murdering people and you didn't know?
Yeah. And this is one of those serial killers that like a lot of his crimes were like based on like sexual fantasy. Because apparently from a very young age, he had fantasies of like binding up women and like BDSM stuff, like just so like kind of icky. And so he had like thoughts like that when he was young, and he was another one of those serial killers that like would kill animals for fun. I feel like that's always always red flags sign. When they're killing cats and dogs at a young age. Like that's, you kind of got to suspect a little something. But anyway,
but he went to church, so it was fine.
Right. And he was like high up at the church. Like he was like president of the church or whatever. Nobody suspected a thing. Like he...
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, okay. His first murder was a mass murder. He killed a whole family.
What?
They were like his neighbors or something. He had been watching them for a while. He was really like fixated on the daughter, or I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Daughter in this family. He was having these like fantasies, and finally, I guess he decided he was going in.
You're right.
And so I think from what I read, it looked like he wasn't planning on like killing the whole family at first, but he didn't know that they were all going to be home. So he broke into the house and basically was able to convince the family that he didn't mean harm. And so he was able to get them all tied up without any real issues. Like, I'm so sorry. If somebody came into my house and said, "Oh, I'm not looking for trouble." What?
Why are you here?
Get out of my house.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I would be chill about it.
More than that, if somebody came into your house and was like, I'm not like, even if they like came in and were like, I'm protecting you of something.
You're getting shot in the foot. I don't.
Why? No. For me, why on earth would you let that person then tie you up?
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, I need some more info. Like reading these things, I need to look into it even more. But I know, I'm like, I would love to know what the conversation was like. And maybe I wonder if they knew each other already. Maybe they were like, okay, maybe it's not.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was one of those things where like he did break in, but then they like found him there and he was able to convince them that he was like,
and that's kind of
supposed to be there.
I read. So with that family, he was able to get them all tied up, and I think he killed the dad and one of the kids first, and the mom was like screaming, begging not to be killed, whatever. I won't get all into that. Right. But at the end, he ended up getting the girl that he really wanted. I believe her name was like Josephine or something. Got her to go downstairs, where he like hung her from a pipe and just watched her die. Like did that, and then, this is gross. I'm sorry. Maybe we need like a PG-13 rating on this.
Yeah, probably.
But
that'd probably be wise.
Said semen was found at the scene, though none of the victims had been sexually assaulted. So you can imagine he was just after they were dead, just nasty. Anyway.
Yeah, that's rough.
He was asked why he like hung the girl like that, and he said, "I just thought it would be interesting to watch her die."
What?
Just really nasty.
I don't get it. Like,
he would take souvenirs too. Like he would take like a pair of underwear or.
That makes sense. I mean, like, just that's like very common serial killer thing.
Yeah.
Is they like take
a thing that I read was that like a thing with serial killers is that they feel it's like a possession element of it, where it's like they feel like the victims are theirs and are like a part of them now. And so like, that's why a lot of serial killers will like go back and visit. It's just like weird. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Ooh.
So it says later on, he targeted a 21-year-old woman who I think was an employee at where he worked.
Okay.
He broke into her house. Her brother was also home, but he managed to escape being shot. Then he stabbed the woman, fled the scene. And after that, he wrote a letter detailing the murders and saying that the code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them, BTK. And he left that note in a book at the Wichita Public Library, and it was eventually recovered by the police. But it's like, what do you want? Like,
yeah.
Do you just have like this desperate need for attention?
It's like a desperate attempt at like
being seen.
Legacy.
Yeah.
You know,
because it's like a sick legacy. It's not like something that, but it's also like there's got to be so much more to it than that, because it's like there has to be a part of you that's like, it goes beyond just like thinking, gosh, what if I ever killed somebody? And it's like the full, like they go through with it. Like there has to be so much more going through your head than just, I'm going to become a serial killer now. Because like I could say that. I would never do it.
Well, but yeah, I mean, you have to be deranged enough that like you want the attention more than you can stomach a human being dying.
Right. And
that's insane.
You're just a little bit crazy. Like I feel like
you have to
it boils down to like you have to be somewhat insane.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part of it, like,
and that's
where people, like, a lot of them are not insane in the sense that like they have full comprehension of what they are doing and why they are doing it. And that's what
it's like. The one, I feel like the ones especially that want the attention are that way. Like,
yes,
this guy Dennis, like it says he had at least he didn't admit to any like experience in his childhood that would lead to something like this. Like he was normal, like
just like nothing, a very regular dude.
Yeah.
Wow. But that's crazy.
I read somewhere that somebody said like if he was being honest, which I'm sure he wasn't, there had to have been a moment in time where he associated like a sexual fantasy with harming someone.
Yeah.
Because how would you know that that's something you want unless you've experienced something that makes you feel that way at least once, you know?
Yeah.
If there wasn't some sort of encounter, and if you weren't already mentally unwell.
It could have been one of those things like as a kid when he's like killing random animals.
Right, but what makes you kill a random animal?
Yeah, that's fair.
Normal, I don't know about you, but normal kids I know aren't like, yeah, I strangled a cat last week. Like that's some serial killer behavior. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If you've ever killed a cat, I'm like, I don't want to just say that's serial killer behavior, but like,
no,
I think
yeah,
it is.
And
it's odd.
Like,
it's not
really odd,
normal.
Especially if it's like outside of, obviously, like there are scenarios
Science
like hunting
class.
and things,
yeah,
like,
and things like that.
Like I was raised in a hunting family, but
totally.
It was always the like, this is going to be used for food,
right? It's like the fascination with death that gets, is what makes it weird, because it's like, okay, like you can hunt and kill an animal and be like, cool, let's move on. Okay. So over the next 2 decades, his murders were slower. Like there was more time in between his killing. So I guess he was able to cover things up better. I don't know. But
settled down, started a family.
Literally. He killed his 5th and 6th victims in 1977, brutally. Following the death of his next victim in 1977, Dennis Rader, he got irritated that there was like a lack of media coverage about it. He was like, why am I not in the papers? Like he was getting
what?
And so he wrote to a local TV station and said, how many people do I have to kill before I get a name in the paper or some national attention? Isn't that insane?
Wow.
Like, what's a guy got to do, you know?
Can you imagine being such a narcissist?
No.
That's insane.
And can you imagine the fear if you were living in that time and you know there's serial killers out there? Like this used to be so common that like serial killers were just running loose. If you saw that one wrote into like, if you lived in that area and you saw that, I was going to say,
where were these all taking place? Like all in Kansas, you said?
I believe, yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine living around there. And
especially if you're in like a small town, you're like, I'm never leaving the house again. Yeah. This is terrifying.
Yeah, you said Wichita?
Yeah.
It's not a particularly big city. Like it isn't tiny, but it's not big.
Yeah.
It's one thing if there's like, this sounds horrible. If there's a murderer on the loose in New York, like in NYC, like there's so many millions of people, like the fear is way less than if you live in like a tiny city.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
So he waited 8 more years after that before murdering a neighbor in her home in 1985. Apparently, he later took her body to his church where he photographed her in bondage. He killed a 28-year-old mother of 2 in 1986. And then in 1991, he committed his last murder. He strangled a 62-year-old woman in her secluded home.
So was there?
It doesn't seem like there was like a certain type.
Interesting.
Yeah. And like, unless maybe the last one just seemed like an easy target and he was desperate. Because
at that point.
I mean, at that point, he's already killed a bunch of people. He's
been a while.
Gonna do what he's gonna do. Yeah.
Wow.
So, in 2004...
Wait, so he didn't kill anyone for like 13 years? You said 91?
91 was his last one. He went on like, I think it was an 8-year hiatus in between.
Okay.
So, people didn't know, like they hadn't found him over the course of 30 years.
Right.
And so there was a local paper that ran a feature on the 30th anniversary of his first murders because they still hadn't found him. It speculated that he had either died or been imprisoned, but they didn't know, which is weird.
I mean, that happens a lot.
So Rader responded to it, like with evidence of stuff that he was still out there, basically. He would send pictures of like victims' bodies and things like that to show that like I'm out here and here's more proof of more crimes I've committed.
What?
Like what? It makes me so like, it makes you mad.
It makes me mad,
like,
yeah.
You're not even like, you know this is horrible and you know it's terrifying people.
Yeah.
But you're just continuing to, you just want the attention.
It's like, it's just genuinely evil.
He would send packages to the media or leave items around the city. It says he often used cereal boxes, possibly a reference to serial killer, to hold drawings, souvenirs, photographs, written descriptions of murders, and even dolls posed to mimic the various deaths. Like, he was crazy. And at this time, like, I don't think his family knew about any of this. Like, in everything I've read, it doesn't say they knew that this was happening. So imagine thinking you're married to a normal person. Imagine thinking your dad's completely normal. He's like very involved at church.
Kind of weird. Like,
maybe, but a lot of times, like, you never suspect. It's crazy. So he asked, this is how he got caught. Okay, in January of 2005, Rader asked the police if they would be able to trace a floppy disk if he sent it to them with like evidence or whatever. They told him no, obviously, because they're not going to be like,
no, don't worry about it.
They're not going to be like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. Like, they might be able to trace you if you send that. Like,
who
obviously,
asks the police?
So stupid, so dumb,
dude. It was 2005. Google existed, my guy.
It says through a classified ad, law enforcement officials indicated that it would be safe. Like, I don't know exactly how that works. Like, if they lied to him, would it be wrong of them to, like, I don't know exactly.
I don't think so.
Obviously,
He's a literal serial killer.
Obviously, they're going to say no because
they want mass murderer.
Yeah, like they want the evidence. Of course, they're going to be like, no, you're fine. Send it. What the hell? So,
why did he ask that?
He sent them the disc. I guess it had clearly evidence of murders, and the police immediately traced it back to his church where he served as president of the congregation. And then his DNA was matched to the semen found at the first crime scene. He was arrested and he confessed to the crimes. And he expressed shock that the police had lied to him, which cracks me up.
That's hilarious.
Like, you guys.
You bamboozled me. You done.
Like, how would you guys do this? Thought we were homies. I was giving you evidence.
He's like, I trusted you.
So he pled guilty and he was sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms. I believe he's still alive. A little spooky.
A little spooky.
So that's kind of the story of him.
Wow.
Again, I wish I had more specifics. I'd have to do like a really deep dive into all of that, but just crazy. Like,
yeah, that's a lot.
It was
There's a lot there.
The desire for attention was what really did it for me. And the fact that, like, when a serial killer names themselves, goodbye. Like, yeah. I'm the BTK kid. Like, ew. Why?
Yeah.
We don't need that. Like, don't give yourself that name.
Yeah. That's super weird.
It's just, it's so disturbing because, like, it's just crazy to think that there was a time, like, during this time, lots of other serial killers were around, which is horrifying.
True.
And
it's weird that, like, it literally, it's like giving yourself a stage name.
Right. And imagine just, like, being a civilian during that time. I cannot imagine my daily fear. If we lived in Nashville and all of a sudden there was a Nashville serial killer on the loose, I wouldn't leave. Like, I would be so terrified.
Yeah, that's insane. That's crazy.
Yeah, especially if he sounded that evil and was just writing in being like, how many people do I have to kill to get some national coverage here? You know?
Yeah.
What do you mean? That's insane. Ugh.
Yeah, wow.
Anyway, that was my first one. Good
that's a lot.
Denny boy.
Cool. Well, moving on to my first one. So this guy I'd never heard of. I don't think, but then I started reading about his killings and I might have. He's really weird. His name is Paul John Knowles.
Okay, I don't think I've heard of him.
The Casanova Killer was his like calling.
Okay.
Name. It's a wild story. He was like really hot. He was
that's how they get you. Cause my next one is
more on that later.
Yeah.
Yeah. This guy, like, compared to a journalist said he was like a cross between Robert Redford and Ryan O'Neal, who were like actors of the 70s.
Okay, and they were hot, I guess.
Robert Redford's super hot. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
He's old now and he's still hot.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's see. In the 19 short years between 1946 and 1965, this says like he had made a name for himself with the police. Basically, he was like in and out of prison for like a bunch of dumb stuff for a really long time. Like he would like get in a bar fight and then he'd like move to a different city and like steal someone's car, you know, like stuff like that. Like it was just like classic. Like he was just like doing dumb stuff and like stealing random stuff and getting in fights with people. And so he was like in and out of prison kind of all over the country a little bit. Like he's like kind of traveling around. So it says like he was by the time he was 19, he like had started like tried out a little bit of kidnapping, you know,
dabbled in
it, if you will,
dipped his toes in.
Yeah, he was incarcerated for kidnapping a police officer.
How do you kidnap a police officer?
No idea.
Honestly, a little impressive.
Honestly, yeah. There's a couple things with police officers in here that I'm like, how did you possibly
not defend yourself?
How did you pull that off?
You have all the tools to not get kidnapped.
Well, and like on his part, I'm like, that's low key kind of impressive.
Kind of dope, my guy.
Kind of
go off, King.
Yeah. Respect in a really, really messed up way. Yeah. So then, in 1974, he's in yet another prison in Florida.
Always Florida.
It's always Florida. And he starts like mailing back and forth with this woman in San Francisco
while he's in prison.
Yeah, he like gets a pen pal. I don't know how.
How do they
it doesn't really
other?
Like doesn't really explain how, but
great. I'm sure it explains somewhere.
I'm sure I could find another article. I only really read one article.
Yeah.
Also,
that's him.
That's him. He looks like Matty Healy. Like he looks like he should be. This is right before he got arrested, like the same day, I think.
I hate that.
It's wild.
He is attractive.
He is like objectively.
Yeah, he's a good-looking guy.
Good-looking guy.
Okay.
He looks like a rock star. Yeah, so he starts like writing back and forth with this girl. She like falls in love with him.
Oh Lord.
Via pen pal.
This is like how like social media now.
Yeah.
That's like how people start to like each other through social media. She started to.
This was like the 70s version of like
Bumble.
Falling in love with your like gaming friend.
Yes, or like, you know, what was that app? Omegle or Omegle?
Yeah, something like that.
That's hilarious. Okay.
So, basically, she ends up like paying for a lawyer to like get him out of jail. Flies him across the country.
Girl, you're doing too much.
Seriously, she is like recently divorced.
I'm sure she saw one picture of him though and was like, "Let's get you out of there, baby."
Yeah, honestly. So. Yeah, so he like flies across the country to marry her, right? They, upon seeing Knowles, a quote from this article, which is from allthat'sinteresting.com.
We'll probably link the articles.
Yeah, we should.
In the description.
Great article. It's very interesting. All of my stuff is from the same website.
My other one is from there.
Yeah. This says, however, upon seeing Knowles, she calls off the wedding. So according to
you do not look like your pictures.
Yeah. In her quote, it said he projected an aura of fear. And she was like scared of it. Like she literally she meets him and is like, I'm scared of you.
That's weird.
Really weird.
When you can sense the energy like that.
Which also, it was like that. And she'd like recently met with a psychic who told her to be wary of like a dangerous man in her future or something. So she like calls off the wedding, pieces out.
Oh, okay. Good for her.
Good for her.
Does he kill her?
No.
Whew.
So that night though, after she breaks up with him, he murders 3 strangers on the streets of San Francisco.
Most people would just lock themselves in their room, cry a little bit, eat some ice cream.
Maybe like go drinking.
Have a few drinks. This guy said, we're killing tonight.
He said, tried kidnapping, not my tea, but I will try some murder. Which is horrible.
Horrible. Just killed them on the streets?
Kills them on the streets.
How?
The next day, it doesn't say.
Okay.
Next day, he arrives back in Jacksonville. So he
all the way across country.
Yeah.
So he hopped on a plane?
I guess so. I guess
how could he do that?
Killed someone and then was back on a plane the next day or that night. Like I don't know if he like caught a red eye or got the earliest flight out.
I mean, shoot, he must have.
Must have. So yeah, so he catches a flight back to Jacksonville. He pulls a knife on a bartender in Jacksonville, gets thrown in jail, doesn't stay very long. He ends up like picking his prison cell lock, which like doesn't make sense to me because what
did you have to pick the lock?
Also, like,
and what were the locks?
Locks. I feel like prison locks are not pickable anymore.
I was gonna say I've obviously never been to a prison, but I'm very curious to know what the cells are like.
Yeah.
Because I feel like all you ever see are like movies where it's like just the metal bars. So like if that was the case, I guess I could see it if it just had literally a lock and key. But like up your game. What the hell? It's jail.
Back in the 70s, I bet like they were.
That was what it was.
A little different, you know?
Yeah.
Like, probably like that. Whereas nowadays they have like concrete cells and like steel door, you know, like it's a little different, I think. Anyways, so like pre that, he's never killed anyone. Right. Then the first of what they call the Casanova murders, because they don't talk much about the other 3, but those almost sound based on that, like maybe not premeditated. Right.
Right.
Or like not really like murder as much as just like
almost just like
manslaughter, maybe.
Yeah.
Like I don't know where the line fully is and I don't have enough based on this one article. But so then his next victim is the night he gets out of prison.
Busts out of there?
Yeah, he busts down the door, pieces out. He tries to go like burgle this old lady's house.
Burgle?
Yeah, that's a word. Like what does a burglar do? They burgle stuff.
Wait.
They steal stuff?
Burgle?
Burgle. Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's in this article.
You're joking.
Yeah, in an attempt to burgle her home. That is a word.
I was today years old. I had no idea that was a word.
Yeah.
I thought you made it up and I was about to make so much fun of you.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm just big brain.
He was trying to burgle.
So he's trying to burgle this lady's house.
Okay.
Right? Kills her. It is unclear. Oh, yeah. This one's crazy. Okay. She dies by choking on her own dentures.
Girly.
They don't know how that happened, but they're pretty sure it was him.
Yeah, like
obviously. Like how
either he stuck them down there or he like hit her, they popped out, she swallowed them, he didn't help her obviously.
Basically, they don't know if she died while he was in the house or not, but they attribute it to him.
That's so sad.
Which is really sad.
Yeah.
Like that one sucks a lot. So he leaves in her car. He is driving down the street. He comes across like old family friends.
Okay.
like children, like the children of family friends or something, or like people he's known. I don't really know. Yeah, he like recognizes them, basically realizes that they recognize him and is like, oh shit. So he kills both of them.
The children?
Two children, yes.
Because he doesn't want to be traced, basically. Like, he didn't want the kids to go home and be like, Mom, Dad, guess who I saw. Yikes.
Yeah, so he just kills these two kids.
Kill the kids? Like.
So now in 2 days, he's up to 6 kills.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? So then, he like dumps their bodies, starts making his way up the East Coast. And they don't go into a ton of details, but these are called the Casanova murders because he leaves in his wake over the next 2 months. Just the next 2 months, he leaves 20 people in 2 months. So like 2 people a week.
He kills 2 people a week?
Yeah.
What does Casanova mean? Maybe let's start there.
Casanova.
The only thing I think of is that Carrie Underwood song. You know what I'm talking about? Cowboy Casanova.
Yep. Let's see. Casanova meaning. A man considered romantic and gallant.
I guess that makes sense because he was attractive.
Because he was hot.
So.
Yeah. So it's like he basically just starts like driving his way up the East Coast, just like randomly killing people, and none of them are the same. Like,
so he didn't really have like a theme.
Zero type.
At this point, was there speculation of who he was?
No.
Then how were they calling him the Casanova? Or were they not yet?
I don't know that they did. That might have been a later coined name. I don't really know.
So he's still just like kind of on the run, vibing.
Yeah, he's just like driving up the coast, randomly killing people. They're finding bodies, but it's across like 6 or 7 states.
It's crazy because like I don't feel like that would fly now.
Yeah.
There's so much more technology to like find people quicker, and like phones and like tracking and things like that.
Yep.
That's insane.
But he like kills all these people, and the other thing is he doesn't have a type. So he kills
so there's no rhyme or reason. They don't know how to say like
14 women, 6 men. 3 of them were children, 3 of them were elderly, some were shot, some were strangled, some were burgled. Others seem to have been killed as an afterthought.
What in the world? Like just heartless, cold.
Yeah.
Just I'm just going to kill you because
person
I'm going to kill you.
Killing people.
Awesome.
As he drives up the coast. But at the same time, there's this like journalist who, her name is Sandy Fox. Fawkes. Fox, like 2 weeks before Knowles ended up getting arrested, like hits it off with him, starts hanging out with him, and hangs out with him for 3 days. They traveled around a bit together. They drank a bunch. She's just having a good time and has no idea that this guy is a murderer who is on the run. And eventually just like they part ways and is like, that was a great time. So it's weird.
So he didn't do anything to her.
No, didn't do a thing. Which is
horrified.
Insane.
You know how many guys I like randomly met?
Yeah, she met him at a hotel bar.
Yeah. You literally never know.
You would have no idea.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, I'm glad he didn't do anything to her, but just the eeriness of knowing now. And like maybe when she found out, she was probably like, holy shit.
She's the one that compared him to Robert Redford.
Gosh, right? That's crazy.
So this says a lot of people believe that he let her go because he wanted fame, because she was a journalist. But she didn't ever know that he was the killer. But then he got arrested 2 weeks later. So obviously then she told people that she had been with him for a couple days and then...
Do we think he was that smart, like thinking that far ahead?
I don't know.
Or maybe he legitimately just didn't have the urge then. Because like there's like, you hear all these serial killers, like they have their own families and stuff. They don't harm them at all.
Yeah.
So it's like they just, it's almost like they have split personalities.
Yeah,
kind of. Like, that's what this sounds like.
Well, so the other reason that they say that is because he did a very similar thing with another writer named Barbara Tucker. Who, like, all this just says another writer who escaped his wrath.
It also could be that, like, it might have been more messy, me, like, trying to get into the mind. I'm like, this is probably what it was.
This is probably.
But, like, it would make sense to me if, like, if you harm a journalist or kill a journalist, like people are going to be all over that, I feel like, because they're already in the media. Yeah. So maybe he just like knew like, I don't want that attention yet. Like I don't want to get.
It's weird. Like, was he smart enough to do that or smart enough to want to be famous?
Who knows?
So yeah.
That's crazy.
So then his arrest is wild too. He gets seen by a highway patrol. They pull him over. He is ready for it and somehow gets the officer's gun from him.
Officer.
He steals his gun.
Come on.
And then the serial killer Knowles subdues the officer and puts him in the back of his patrol car and drives off in the patrol
ultimate car. Uno reverse.
Yeah. Legit.
What?
So he takes this man hostage and then leaves. That's
sorry.
What they were talking about at the beginning about him kidnapping an officer. Maybe they were saying that as like here's a taste of his wild history. He didn't do that pre this.
Right, yeah.
So he takes this man hostage, goes running with his patrol car, just driving around town.
Wait, and the guy's in the back of it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Then he pulls over another car as the patrol car, takes that guy hostage too.
While we're at it,
let's add another guy. More? Get him a little company back there. So he takes that guy hostage, takes them both into the forest and kills them.
Why'd he take the other? Just because he didn't want the other guy to probably find out about the one guy he already had?
Don't know.
What in the world?
No idea. He just takes another guy and let's go kill them both.
How did he handle? I'm shocked that he was able to. One of them wasn't able to get loose while he was handling one, or
Yeah, he ties them to a tree basically and kills them both. Then starts running through the forest, I think. And a local guy, just a guy, I don't know, living somewhere, finds him and he has his shotgun with him. And so he subdues him until the cops come.
Good Lord.
Right. And then he gets arrested. Once he's arrested, he admits to 35 murders, 20 of which the police didn't know about. And
how do they not know?
Over the next month, he takes them to all of the crime scenes. And then while doing this, taking them around to his things, he again tries to steal the officer's weapon.
I've done it twice now already.
I guess so. And this time it doesn't work out for him and he gets shot and killed.
Okay, so it was he never even made it back to prison.
Never made it back to prison. Never finished his second tour of the East Coast.
Didn't get to finish out that road trip.
A little tough.
That's a weird one because it's you
so,
don't know the motive ever.
Yeah.
What was the motive? And what set him off?
And it's so reckless.
Yeah. I'm very curious to know more about his childhood. Was there anything on that?
No, not in this article. I'm sure there is out there somewhere.
That's wild.
But yeah, this was just kind of the overview of the whole story, which I would be very curious to know what happened in that guy's life. Did he have bipolar disorder? Something.
Just rage. Because those ones, I feel you don't always hear of serial killers that kill out of rage, or because most serial killers that I've heard about have a very specific set of victims where it's like Dahmer, mostly gay men that were color. Minorities. Yep. Yeah. That's bizarre. And he didn't there was nothing sexual tied to it. It was just, I'm killing people.
Just killing people. At least, again, based on this one article that I read in depth. I read another article and that's how I found out about him, but it was a little paragraph or two. And then I read this full article. So
that's insane.
Wild. And the fact that it lasted for 2 months. He'd never killed anyone until this one event. And then he goes on a literal rampage for 2 months before just dying.
That's crazy.
Insane. Okay.
So I saved my favorite serial killer for last. And this is one I think most people know about him because there have been shows in like movies and stuff recently, but this was like the serial killer that got me interested in serial killers, and just like, and it sounds weird, but just like the fascination with like the psyche behind it. So we're going to talk about Ted Bundy.
Classic.
Man,
I feel like we talked about you loving Ted Bundy, not loving Ted Bundy.
Not loving.
I think I need to be careful about.
Yeah.
We both need to be careful about what we say.
No, it's just like, I'm so fascinated in the story and I love talking about it.
Yes.
I think it's horrifying.
I genuinely think we talked about this on our first date.
Yeah, probably.
I, however, don't know very much about Ted Bundy.
Okay.
Because I never watched the show or the movie or the documentaries.
I will say it's hard for me to remember everything now because I watched the documentaries a while ago. I watched that show with Zac Efron a while ago. But I did, like, I looked into articles and stuff and it brought a lot back. So let's dive into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay. Pulling up an article here. This is kind of funny. Ted Bundy describes himself as the most cold-hearted son of a bitch you'll ever meet. So
nice.
Just
what a
that
guy.
Be your first impression.
What on earth?
Yeah. So
serial killers are just so weird. Like, they're so full of themselves.
So full of themselves. Some of them are. Hold on, let me look up a timeline so I can give like dates. Okay, so Ted Bundy was a serial killer in the 70s. So same time frame as like
all of these,
which is terrifying.
The 70s was rough for that. The 70s,
I saw, okay, wait, we're both in this Facebook group called a group where we all pretend to be boomers. And somebody shared this thing. It was like just like a funny graphic that said like, boomers today will say things like, back in my day, like we didn't have this, this, and this. And then it said like, back in their day. And it showed like all the serial killers like lined up. Like,
that's funny.
What do you mean? Like your day was terrifying.
Yeah.
So
that's really
he
funny.
Was a serial killer in the 70s. He did his killings between the years 1974 and 1978. He killed more than 25 girls and young women. The number's probably way higher, but he never admitted. Like, until he literally died, he did not admit to
killing anyone.
I think he admitted to about 25 to 30 or something like that.
The ones that like he couldn't really deny, basically.
Kind of. But he wouldn't say, like, he was very
strategic.
Cryptic, and like there's interviews of him on death row and he just like wouldn't say. He would dance around things, was just like super sketchy about it all.
Wasn't he like really charismatic?
He was like a very charming guy.
Yeah, and like really well spoken too,
yeah, he's
right?
So smart. He had a really high IQ. He was like a very smart person.
Interesting.
He went to law school.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew that he like represented himself during trial.
Right.
But I didn't know that he was actually a law student.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, give us the rundown.
So this is an interesting part of his childhood, is that his mom had him out of wedlock and she was very young. And her parents were like so embarrassed and were like, this is terrible. So they basically raised Ted as their own kid. So Ted Bundy grew up.
Grandparents?
Ted Bundy grew up thinking his mom was his sister. So he had no idea that his mom was not his sister. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because she was like obviously there was enough of an age gap to where she could have had him, but she was young.
Right.
So
like 16 kind of thing.
I think somewhere around there.
Okay. Interesting.
Anywho, he was a pretty introverted kid, so he got bullied, the classic, whatever. It says later in life, his intelligence and social skills enabled him to enjoy a successful college career. He had like normal relationships with women, like nothing weird. Yeah. It says, despite this apparent stability, he sexually assaulted and killed several young women in Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Utah, and Florida. Like he made his rounds as well.
Okay.
Yeah. He ultimately only confessed to 28 murders, but it's estimated that there were hundreds.
Whoa.
Which is weird because it's like, why would you admit to some, but not all. Like, you're already a killer, you know?
Yeah.
Very strange.
I bet, here's my theory. The infamy, he's already a serial killer, and like people will talk about the fact that like he probably killed hundreds forever. Like everyone's like, Ted Bundy, he's crazy, you know, and why did he do it? Like we're sitting here talking about it. That's interesting. Okay.
So basically, Ted Bundy's, he would always do his abductions under the guise of like being injured, or he would make himself seem like more vulnerable so that, and he was also an attractive man. Like he was another one of those that like, he was charming. He was
good looking,
pretty boy. Like
yeah,
women just like were drawn to him. And so he would use that to his advantage. He would often like either have like a cane, like a walking stick, or his arm would be in a sling and he'd be carrying stuff. And like he would lead women. He would like see a woman that he wanted to abduct basically and like ask them for help, like ask them to help him carry stuff to his car or like get something out of his car. Cause he was, and that's how he would get them to his car and then hit them over the head with like a crowbar or like a steel pipe or something, like knock them out. And then he would have the front seat of his car down so that he could lay the women on the floor so that they wouldn't be seen in the car.
Right.
His car was like very popular. It was like a very specific Volkswagen Beetle. It's like a tan color.
Yeah.
So that becomes kind of like, that's what's his car now is like in a crime museum or something. Cause
oh, really?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how he would get them. He would rape them, kill them, bury the bodies, crazy stuff. Or he would kill them, then rape them. Like just gross stuff.
Yeah, don't like that.
I can't remember if this was his first attack. He didn't kill, I don't think he killed the first person that he attacked, but he like broke into a woman's home, knocked her unconscious with a steel pipe and raped her with that pipe.
Oh my God.
To where she had like, she didn't die, but she had permanent damage because it literally is just like the most sickening, like disgusting stuff. But he didn't kill her, but like that was, he would just do horrible, disgusting things like that. And it was, but no one suspected anything. Like at the time,
he's just like a really regular dude.
Yeah, he was a very regular dude. And like, that's what helped him get out of things for so long because like people didn't suspect him. They were like, he's like a charming, sweet guy. Like he's not really anybody to worry about type thing. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
It's crazy. Apparently there's like a lot of women that got out of being abducted because like Ted would try to lure them to his car and fail. And so like those women started to come forward as women were disappearing, being like, oh, this man in a sling tried to get me to come to his car too. And so they started drawing suspects from that because women were disappearing at this point. He was breaking into homes, killing them, and then like hiding their bodies places.
Whoa.
And so people like the women started telling authorities about an attractive young man with his arm in a sling and told them about the type of car that he had because he would try to get them to the car. So
I'm pretty sure I have a family friend that was one of those ladies.
Really?
Yeah.
I have a part of my story goes into.
Because it was in Colorado.
Yeah.
Did they arrest him in Colorado? Or did they arrest him in Florida?
It's Florida because that's where his last killings were.
Right. I think, but yeah, I'm if I remember correctly, my mom had a friend that like supposedly got asked to help out Ted Bundy or something crazy.
It's so
nuts.
And it's terrifying because like I think about it and I'm like, I would probably say no now being smarter and older. But like if I were a young, impressionable
21,
woman and a man in a sling came up to me, I'd be like, guess I got it. Even if it made me a little uncomfortable, which like girls don't do that. But like,
yeah,
I'd be like, oh shoot, he's in a sling. Like, what can I do? You know?
Yeah.
It's so scary.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So because Ted didn't have like a record or anything, authorities were like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, and they kind of just like dismissed the idea of him being a suspect. So most of his victims were college women because a lot of the stories are like, this girl went to the university of whatever, he broke into there, whatever. So
how old was he when he was doing all this?
I want to say
like mid-20s.
Maybe maybe early 30s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't fully know. I'll check on that. This I just remembered, but I remember on TikTok one time I saw this story. I might have told you about it.
Okay.
This girl posted a video and said, she's talking about her parents' first date. Her parents, she like heard that her parents had told her the story of their first date, and her dad wanted to take her mom for like a walk in the woods, and it was nighttime. I don't remember where exactly this took place, but it wasn't dark yet, but it was kind of like dusk, and like
right.
The mom, like the girl didn't feel weird or anything. She was just kind of like, okay, whatever. But so they went for a walk, but then like as it started getting darker, they both started feeling a little bit more like weird. Like they just felt like eerie being out in the woods, which like as you should, don't ever go for a walk in the woods at night. Like,
yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. It was a while ago though, so maybe it just like they didn't really think anything. But at one point, it was getting dark to where they couldn't really see much in front of them. The dad accidentally like stepped on something or like kicked something and was like weird, like didn't know what it was. He thought he must have kicked like a dead animal or something. And so they were both just like, let's just leave, like let's go back. So they like left the woods. Turns out literally Ted Bundy was there and had just killed a woman.
Oh my God.
And the guy had kicked her body. And Ted recalled this later on because he thought that's when he was going to get caught because he was hiding behind a tree or something. He was like, oh my God, like these people are going to find me out.
Random people.
And so it came about like later on that's what it was. So the parents, like the girl's parents didn't know until way later that that's what that was.
Oh my God.
Because Ted literally referenced them and was like, yeah, they like kicked her body and I was horrified that they were going to see it. And they didn't see it. They like left.
That's insane.
Knowing that later on that you were in the presence of a murder victim and the serial killer was like, watching you.
One of the most notable serial killers of the past 100 years. Like that's insane.
He was like just watching them. Like
just hoping to God they couldn't see him.
Yeah.
That's
terrifying.
Horrifying.
I don't remember exactly where that took place. Like it was either Colorado, Florida, wherever the heck
that's
he was.
But maximum spooky.
Big spook. Don't ever go walking in the woods.
Done.
Anyway, his main thing was like we talked about earlier, like the possession factor. So he like said that like he loved the fact that by taking a life, that person becomes like a part of you, and that's like your shared experience with that specific person.
That's
good. So
Lord.
Weird.
No way.
So weird. Because he said, there's a quote from him in here. It says, "Murder is not just a crime of lust or violence. It becomes possession. They are a part of you. The victim becomes a part of you, and you two are forever one. And the grounds where you kill them or leave them become sacred to you, and you will always be drawn back to them." It's effed up.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah. He abducted and murdered 5 female college students in the Pacific Northwest, and it like lists all the names. And I feel like I've looked into this so many times, I like recognize the names every time I see it. But yeah,
that's crazy.
All college students, a lot of them, I think he would go for like sorority girls and stuff because like there's a lot of girls in one place type thing.
That feels like almost worse though. Like you'd think they would start to pick up on like the guy that picks up sorority girls and then they never come back.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like he picked them up or whatever. It was like he broke in, killed them, left. So it's like he didn't leave. He tried to be like not super seen, you know, but
right.
Anyway, so as he continues like killing women, whatever, there's evidence is piling on that he is a suspect in this.
Right.
So eventually, I believe he went from like Colorado to Utah to murder more people. He eventually got pulled over in 1975 just because he was like, I guess, driving a little weird. And the police discovered like masks, handcuffs, and blunt objects in the car. And that wasn't enough to like arrest him, but it was sketchy. And so the police started like just monitoring him more because I don't remember exactly what he said, but he had like a good excuse for every item that they found because he was like good at talking his way. Yeah. And so the officers eventually, it says they found his Beetle, which he had since sold. When was this? I guess he sold the car, but the officers found it. They discovered hair that matched 3 of his victims. And so with that evidence, they put him in a lineup with other suspects and had women that had run-ins with him. They had them pick him out in a lineup, and they would say, like, that guy. Out. Yeah. So he was convicted of kidnapping and assault and was sent to prison while police were trying to build like a murder case. He escaped from custody the first time when he was in Colorado.
What were the 70s?
Literally. How do you just get this though?
That's 2 different murderers from the 70s that just broke out, escaped custody.
Well, so he was serving as his own lawyer. He wanted to defend himself. And so because of that, he was allowed to go into like the law library at the courthouse in Aspen, and he didn't have to be chained up or whatever. Like, he didn't have to be shackled. So they they left him in. It's not even like they watched him in there. They let him do his thing in there, and they walked out, and he jumped out of a 2-story window to escape. And so he got out of there and was on the run. He ended up getting caught again for like reckless driving. So it wasn't like a very long-winded thing, but like, come on, you're dealing with a serial killer. You're just going to leave him alone in a library? Like, it's crazy enough to kill people. You think he won't jump out of a window? I do not understand. So yeah, he stole a car to like flee basically. And he left so recklessly, like trying to bust out of there, that he got like caught again or whatever.
I mean, fair. His ankles probably weren't working.
Yeah, he was recaptured after 6 days of being on the run.
Okay.
So it says his next escape took place 6 months later, but this time it was from a jail cell. He made a crawl space. Like, he planned it out.
He didn't just
pick a lock. He like dug his way out. He stopped eating so that he could lose enough weight to make it through the crawl space to like bust out of there. Super weird.
Oh my gosh. This is literally,
he studied a map of the prison to do it. Like, he was calculated.
This is literally Shawshank Redemption, but
that doesn't land for me, but cool. So
fair.
He gets out, and he made sure that he had like money, because I remember this vaguely from like the documentaries and stuff that I watched, but there was like this other woman, like he had a girlfriend before, but then there was...
Wasn't he married?
No, he had a girlfriend. This might be her.
Because wasn't like Lily Collins playing his wife or something?
It was his girlfriend, like his long-term girlfriend or something.
They like lived together or something?
Yeah, and she like had a kid.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But anyway, there was this woman, Carol Ann Boone, who he eventually married in prison, basically. She wasn't in prison, but she would like smuggle him money. I don't remember how they met.
Okay.
I don't feel like that's the most important part of the story, so I'm just not even going to go into that too much. But she smuggled him money, and so he was able to like have something to be able to get away. So it says he crawled through his crawl space up into the chief jailer's room. It was unoccupied, so he switched out of his jumpsuit for the man's civilian clothes and strolled out the front doors. Just walked right out of jail.
What?
Yeah. So he immediately steals a car. Not sure how do you just, I'll steal that one. Like, how did you do that? Maybe it was easier to steal a car in the 70s, but what?
I feel like hot wiring was still like a little bit, obviously you can still hot wire things now, but it's a little harder, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe it was easier back then.
Yeah. So.
What on earth?
He booked it to Florida.
As you do.
He didn't
have... The Wild West, some say.
Yeah, he didn't have like ID or anything that he could use. He was supposed to still be in jail, so Obviously. He couldn't get a job, so he was like stealing for money. It says, and the compulsion for violence was simply too strong. So this is basically, this next killing is the one that they ended up being able to like fully build.
The grand finale.
Yeah. So on January 15th, 1978, this was 2 weeks after his escape, he broke into a sorority house on the Florida State University campus. And within the span of 15 minutes, he sexually assaulted and killed Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy, I think that's how you pronounce it, bludgeoning them with firewood and strangling them with stockings. He then assaulted 2 more people who suffered injuries, including broken jaws and missing teeth.
Oh my Lord.
Then he broke into the apartment of someone else who lived several blocks away and beat her so badly she lost her hearing permanently.
Oh.
Absolutely insane. And so...
That's like literal just rampage, like chaos.
Almost a month later, he was still on the run. He abducted a 12-year-old girl from her middle school and murdered her, concealing her body on a pig farm. Just like horrible stuff.
Absolute, like full unhinged psychopath.
He eventually got caught again because of his reckless driving. Like, buddy, if you're trying to keep a low profile, you can't be driving like an idiot.
Just
but
drive 5
I'm glad he did. But,
same, but
so they realized that the plates belonged to a stolen car. They pulled him over, found the IDs of 3 dead women, and they linked him to the FSU crimes. I read this somewhere. What ultimately got him was that on Lisa, the girl from the sorority house that he killed, he had left a bite mark, like a double bite mark. He like chomped her.
Right.
Left.
That matched his.
It matched his bite. He had like a really weird, his teeth were all messed up. And so like it matched perfectly with that. The girl, Lisa, this is, I was telling you earlier, I don't have a connection to this whatsoever, but I know of people that have like a connection to this.
Right.
And I feel like there's probably so many people because he crossed so many states. I'm sure a lot of people know somebody who knows somebody, like you said.
People, yeah.
So my grandma had a friend who apparently, I think, let me make sure I get this right in case they listen to this. Okay. My grandma had a friend who had escaped Poland with her family back in like the Hitler era. Her daughter was Lisa Levy. Or Levy.
Whoa.
Her daughter was the one that got killed, and that was my grandma's friend. So like my grandma, like,
whoa.
Yeah. And that was like the girl that basically helped get him ultimately, like,
right.
We got our guy, basically. So it's very sad. Like it sounds like she had a very hard life as it was, and then your daughter gets tragically murdered by a serial killer. Like, are you kidding? So sad, but that's how they got him. And he was eventually executed by electric chair on January 24th, 1989. Lots of people gathered to celebrate his death because
I'm sure
he was insane. Like he was a very brutal killer. Like it wasn't just it's like very gruesome, like violent, horrible, it just is like things.
Yeah, and there's so many of them that it's like obviously loss of life is loss of life. Like that sucks, regardless. But like the fact that it's estimated that it was hundreds is insane.
Yeah, he denied. It's weird because he denied certain killings, even though there was evidence. And like you've already admitted to all these other killings. Why are you denying others? But yeah, so it's still unknown how many. And like if you watch I think it's like the Ted Bundy tapes or something like that on Netflix, you hear actual like the conversations. And they'd be like, why did you do this or whatever? And he'd be like, I didn't. And it was just like, he would be very, almost like making a joke of it. Like just the really gross, like, ew, you like love that you did this type thing.
Yeah.
That's just like so sickening and
weird.
Like scary. But yeah, so it says authorities suspect Bundy killed anywhere from 30 to 40 women, making him one of the most infamous and terrifying serial killers in American history, and perhaps the very definition of heartless evil.
Wow.
That story like makes me not trust anyone. Like, yeah, especially like as a woman, like I cannot imagine, like women were probably just fearing for their lives all the time.
Yeah.
And it's weird, like you think our parents were alive during
they were
adults. Yeah, like they were
teenagers during that time.
And I've never like talked to my parents about like if that even meant anything to them at the time. But my mom lived in Florida. Like she was there. Like so scary and like so, which
hopefully like she was probably like our moms were probably like 12 or 13.
Yeah, because it was like early to mid 70s.
Yeah, they were 11 and 12 when he got captured.
No, yeah, you're right. They were early, probably like early like middle school age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but he did kill a 12-year-old. So
Right.
So maybe like they didn't really realize what all was going on, but like
Right.
they had to have heard about it and like,
Yeah,
gosh.
that's insane.
Yeah. That one is like
Woo.
most terrifying.
Yeah, because it's just like so.
And it's always like
mean-
the ones that you don't suspect, which is so scary that like
Right.
even now, like people have to be so careful. Like, unfortunately, you really can't
Yeah.
because you don't know. Like it's
You truly
want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, like you want to be smart and like not just assume
Yeah, you
that
have to be
everybody
safe.
is.
Like,
yeah, even just like going out
people
to
are
bars and
dangerous.
stuff, and like you see it everywhere. Like that's how Jeffrey Dahmer got his victims. He would like
who just
sweet talk them at bars and then take them home and like.
drug them.
Yeah, like you just don't
Yeah.
know. So be careful out there, besties, because
Be careful.
yeah,
Wow.
that one's
Yeah.
crazy.
Okay. Would you like to hear about mine?
I'm excited because you've been like very excited about this one.
This one's
specifically.
just crazy. It sounds like a horror movie.
well, they all kind of do.
They all do, but they all sound like crazy, like psychological thriller things. This one is like, to me, this is where we got the idea for haunted houses.
Is this the clown guy,
No. I did think about that one.
the Gacy guy?
Yeah, John Wayne Gacy, I think is his name.
Y'all do your own research on that one, but he's scary.
Have you watched that one?
No, I've read about him.
Because there's also the same guy that did the Bundy tapes and the Dahmer tapes. He did a.
We should
John
watch
Wayne
all of those.
Gacy.
I'm so curious.
I may be messing up that name.
John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, I know Gacy is the last name, and I know his first name is John, but the middle name I am unsure of. Anyways, he's not the topic of this.
Okay.
This is also our oldest serial killer in here. This is H.H. Holmes.
Sounds like an author.
It does. It was not his given name.
Okay. It is John Wayne
because
Gacy, by the way. I'm sorry.
It is
I'm
John
sorry,
Wayne
I had
Gacy?
to look it up. Yeah.
Great. I'm so glad we have that settled. So H.H. Holmes is one of America's first known serial killers. He, let's see here. So he first comes to Chicago. Most of his killings are in Chicago.
Okay.
He comes to Chicago in 1886. This says also,
we're talking.
yeah, like
We go way back. with this guy.
130 years ago.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah, long time ago. This says leaving behind more than one previous life. He was born with the name Herman Webster Mudgett, which is unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd change my name too.
Same. But he basically like got into a bunch of trouble in college. He got in trouble for mutilating cadavers.
What is a cadaver?
A cadaver is a dead body.
Oh.
Most of the time a cadaver is in reference to like an anatomy student or like a medical student. They're probably using a cadaver, someone who has donated their body. So he's like in there mutilating them, like cutting them up
Awesome.
like crazy.
That's disgusting.
To defraud life insurance companies. I don't know what that means. I don't know how that plays into this. That's just what this article says.
I don't know what the 1800s are a weird place.
Yeah, seriously. This is from All That's Interesting again.
Okay.
Then in New York, he's the last person seen with a child that goes missing, is never seen again. In Philadelphia, he works as a pharmacist for a little bit, and then someone dies after taking his pills.
Ooh.
So these weird things would
weird.
happen, and then he would just disappear and
I
pop
hate
up in
that.
a new town with a new name. So he shows up in Chicago and decides to change his name to Henry Howard Holmes.
Okay.
We get it. You're freaking from a comic book.
Yeah.
Like he sounds like a
superhero's
like
normal name.
Yeah. Or like a detective or,
Yeah.
like it's like the most quintessential storybook name from like the late 1800s.
Yeah.
So yeah, he gets there, he gets a job at a drugstore. And he's also, much like our previous couple people, he's very charming, very likable, very good at talking. just a nice guy. So this says at some point he was married to 3 different women at once and none of them knew because he was so charming.
I guess back then it was probably way easier to get away with.
Probably.
But he just disappears for like 2 nights at a time and you're
no
like,
idea.
See ya.
Yeah. It's also weird because this one is so old. There's a lot of like what actually happened, what didn't.
Right.
So take this with a grain of salt. But in 1887, he buys just like an empty lot of land and starts building something. Starts building a very large building. It's like a full block long.
Okay.
He is building a 3-story hotel, he says it's for apartments and shops.
Okay.
But it's like really ugly. Everyone's kind of like, what the hell is that? It's 100 rooms. It's so massive. And like Chicago is a very young city, but it's like growing and getting more popular. So his plan was for the entire first floor to have like storefronts that people could rent out and have their stores in.
Okay.
The 3rd floor was going to contain apartments for new residents looking to make it in the big windy city.
All right.
Sorry, make it big in the windy city. I messed up that quote. So then he makes the entire 2nd floor. So then the 2nd floor was allegedly full of asphyxiation chambers, mazes, hidden stairs, and like secret slides that went to the basement, like trap doors and shit.
What the?
This man is literally building a Clue house.
Yeah.
But like a huge one.
What in the world?
Right? So throughout the building's construction, he switches out the contractors all the time.
So like no one knows
every
what's
couple
really going
weeks
on.
or months. So yeah, no one really like they're just coming in and like
doing
we're
a few
building
odd
a thing,
things,
and then he like gets rid of them and hires someone new. Right.
Okay.
So no one really like has any frame of reference of what this building is.
Right,
or
and
why
nobody
things
really
are
has a full picture of what
exactly.
it looks like. Okay.
So he does that. The house is completed in 1892. Sometimes they call it a mansion. Sometimes they call it a hotel. It's just like a really big building.
A really big building. Gotcha.
So in 1893 was something called the World Fair in Chicago, and it was one of the most attended cultural events of the era, with millions of people participating in the historic celebration. So there's this huge influx of people coming into Chicago in 1893, which is a year after the place opens. So there's like a bunch of people coming to his hotel.
I'm scared.
And so he basically has all of these like hidden false walls and like crazy things that he starts kidnapping people randomly and like murdering them in the basement of this hotel, where he literally has like a torture chamber.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Which they don't go into a ton of like what that is, but also he has like literal gas chambers in this room. Like that's what those asphyxiation. We've been podcasting for a while. Ooh. Asphyxiation. That's what those asphyxiation chambers are. Like they're like gas rooms, basically. Which I'm also a little.
So this man just literally wants people to die. He's like, trying to.
The quote from him was he was quoted on his trial eventually when they caught him as saying, "I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than a poet can help the inspiration to sing." So he was just evil and nuts.
I'm horrified.
Yeah.
That is so scary.
Yeah. So yeah, basically it was the late 1800s. Like there's no one knows that you're a traveler coming in and out of the city. Like you went to Chicago. It'd probably be like a couple weeks before you come back to wherever you left from.
Also, like at that time, were there like news articles? Yeah,
there's like newspapers and stuff.
About, like,
so there is. So then in 94, so So this place has only been open for 2 years. Ultimately, this says theft and poorly planned financial schemes are what like leads to his arrest. They don't super elaborate on that, but like he's like stealing from people.
Right.
You know, I'm sure he's not killing obviously every single person that comes to stay at his hotel, but he's probably stealing stuff. They probably come in. So the police come in, start searching the building, and are like, what the hell is going on here? Like, this building doesn't make sense.
I'm just curious, like, don't you have to have, I know nothing about business or hotels or the 1800s, but don't you have to have like some type of like permit or license to like rent out
I'm
rooms
sure you
to
do.
people, like, or have like an inspection?
I'm sure you do now. I don't know what the rules were in the 1800s.
I'm
like,
so glad I was not alive in that time.
Yeah. So basically the police come in and start like trying to make sense of this building. Like, they're like, cool, that's a false wall. That's a trapdoor. That's a secret staircase. Like, all of this crazy
like
shit. Yeah,
it's literally, it's
like
Colorado.
It's insane. And
literally just like a weird fun house that's not fun.
So they eventually go downstairs into the basement and they find a blood-soaked operating table with like women's clothes on it, another surgical surface is what they say, with a crematory.
Where you cremate people?
Yeah. So he has an in-house human-sized oven, basically.
How do you have that? Where did you get that? And none of the contractors were like, kind of weird that we're bringing this in here, but okay.
Bizarre torture devices, medical tools, and shelves of disintegrating acids. We just like, which this guy was a former pharmaceutical guy, so he just like understands drugs, knows stuff about them. He also obviously was in school for like anatomy stuff. So he like has this weird fascination with human bodies. Backing up a little bit, when the cops first come in, the first clue about like how weird this place is they come across a pile of bones, mostly animals.
Red flag.
And then also a few humans.
Okay.
And they were all small, which means they definitely belong to a child.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So a lot of the doors in like people's rooms were connected to like some sort of 1800s type of alarm in his room. So he would like know when people were moving throughout his building.
That is so scary.
It's insane. He had like a trap door in the bathroom of his apartment with a staircase that led to a windowless cubicle. In there was a large chute that tunneled through the basement. So he had like a direct access to the basement.
Gosh. Okay.
So yeah, so there's like all this crazy stuff. They find all of it. Yeah, he would reportedly dissect them. He would sell the organs or skeletons to medical institutions or on the black market.
So he was like making a lot of money, probably.
Making a lot of money, and he's running a hotel business. So he's like, they're like paying him to stay there, and then he just kills them, steals all their shit, for sure.
Oh my gosh.
And the craziest thing is like it's only open for 2 years because then he gets arrested. They find out all of this. When all was said and done, Holmes was officially linked to only 9 murders, just 9, that they can officially confirm, right?
Okay.
He boasts that he committed at least 27. However, and
there's gotta be way more than that.
He gives 3 different confessions while imprisoned, and none of them line up. Like they're all over the place. Okay. So, with like contradicting numbers of how many people he killed. The true amount of victims, though, they literally cannot find out because he would cremate them or dissolve them in acid. But a lot of people speculate that it could have been as high as 200 people. Some people now, experts say like that might be an exaggeration made by newspapers of the day and age because they didn't know. So they were just like, oh, he killed 200 people.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if it was more than 100 though, because you made an entire space for that and you're only going to kill 27?
Yeah.
Come on. That's insane.
Although it was only over 2 years. So even if he killed 27 people, like that's more than one a month for 2 years, which is insane.
I would think that if you're making a building for that, you're killing more than one a month.
Yeah, like one a week.
Oh my gosh, that is like so...
And especially with the fair thing going on, surely, you know? Oh, so wild. So then he says that thing about the devil in him. This is where it gets spooky.
As if it wasn't already
crazy. He was unanimously sentenced to death by hanging. So they hang him. He specifically asks that his body is encased in cement inside of his coffin.
Ooh.
Weird.
Why?
Don't know. Maybe he doesn't want people doing what he did to other bodies. That's my theory.
It would be like too heavy to ever remove, probably.
Yeah, probably. Oh, yeah. So he, in 1896, shortly before his death, he suggests that he is turning into the devil.
Stop. I hate that.
This is a little gruesome about his death.
Okay.
You want to hear it?
I do.
So they drop the trapdoor, he falls, his neck doesn't break like it's supposed to, and he lays twitching for like 20 minutes before he's pronounced dead.
Did he die then, in that case, not from his neck breaking, but from just like being suffocated?
Guess. So then after his death, people associated to him start like randomly dying in weird ways. So like the person who tipped off the police randomly gets shot by a Chicago police officer. The DA caught on fire.
I'm sorry?
No idea.
Weird.
I don't know what that means. Like he literally
spontaneously combusts.
How did one catch on fire?
Yeah.
But supposedly he dies by catching on fire. The former caretaker of the castle dies by suicide like 30 years later, leaving a 1-sentence note. I could not sleep.
Stop. Why does that terrify me?
The spookiest of serial killers. Right? So this is why I was like excited to tell you about this, because it's bonkers.
That is pretty bonkers.
That doesn't sound like a real story.
You just got like punked by the article.
Yeah.
We gotcha.
Gotcha. But like that sounds like a movie.
It does kind of sound like he was possessed or something weird.
It does.
Like
low key, I would make a horror movie about that.
Yeah, honestly, there's got to be something out there on that.
Right? How have I never heard of this guy?
That's crazy. I mean, it's old, but
it truly, like, it sounds like the OG idea for a haunted house. Oh, also it catches on fire, the whole building in the like early 1900s, and then was around for a little bit, and they ended up just like demolishing it, and now there's like a post office.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I'm going to need some time to really process all of these stories.
Yeah.
'Cause that was a lot.
That was a lot.
Moral of the story: serial killers are terrifying, and I'm not even gonna do it to myself and look up if there are known serial killers out and about right now, because I'm sure there are.
Yeah. Really weird.
Well,
serial killers are wild. Good spooky episode, my love.
Let's end on a high note.
Okay, before we say anything else, I want to say, like, obviously, loss of life sucks. That's awful. None of this, we're not like glorifying serial killers.
No, it's very much
I think that's
like,
apparent throughout this, but like in case it's not, I want to just like cover our asses that like we're not like we're like, interested
wow, isn't
in this.
Cool? No, it's not cool. It's just like
we're not like fans.
It's bizarre.
It's bizarre, like, and these people are insane.
So crazy to try and wrap your head around that. Like we have to talk about it and dive into it sometimes, because what on earth? What? Yeah, it's
literally, what do you mean?
WDYM. That's insane. And I really don't have any other words for that other than that's insane.
I think I'm ready to like go watch something mindless.
Yeah, for sure. And
we're not finishing Dahmer tonight.
We might be finishing Dahmer tonight. But yeah, to end on a high note though, let's maybe talk about our Halloween costume.
Oh,
because at this point, it's late enough in the game that nobody's going to copy us. Just kidding. If you guys, it's not a very unique costume. I'm not worried about anybody.
Yeah, I've
copying us
seen
per
it
se,
before.
but-
I've never seen it in person.
I've never seen it in our context because we are dressing up with our rabbit, but
Yeah, that's true. I've only seen it on like Pinterest.
maybe to post about this episode, we'll post a photo of it, so maybe people will have already seen.
Yeah.
But our costume is we're going as the characters from Ratatouille. So Ty's going to be Linguini. I'm going to be, what's her name? I always forget her name. Colette. And Cooper is going to be Remy. We got him a little chef's hat and it's going to be adorable.
It's going to be great.
So
I can't wait. I genuinely am so excited to see Cooper in his little chef's hat.
I know. So cute.
I tried on my wig today, so
Yeah.
here's hoping. And if you have cool Halloween plans, let us know. What do people do?
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people go out. I'm not going to lie. Halloween kind of scares me a little bit.
Same.
I feel like people,
Like
not to
going
say that-
like out like to bars and stuff is a little sketchy
yeah,
to me.
I don't want to be in a place where people are not sober and also don't look like themselves. That just scares me a little bit. So we will not be going anywhere like that. I think people do parties and stuff. Which
parties sound
that's
fun.
fun. Or like,
Just like
honestly, if kids trick or treat, like it's fun to pass candy out to
we
them.
gotta get candy.
Yeah, we live in an apartment. I don't know but there's a lot of kids here.
There's a lot
So I
of
don't know if
kids here.
they're gonna trick or treat, but
Could be fun.
we'll see. Hope you guys have a great Halloween. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at WDYM Pod. Yeah, did I leave anything out?
Be sure to leave a rating and follow us on your podcast provider
Yeah.
because that helps us out, gets us in the charts.
Yeah, if you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, ratings are great. If you want to leave a review on Apple Podcasts,
Even greater.
that would be so great. Okay. That would be a real treat. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
No
Not
tricks,
even trying to trick
all
them on that.
treats.
This has been fun.
This has been dope. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.